everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Smith Falls Police Services Board for January 15th, 2025. On January 15th, 2025, we acknowledge the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years in its rich and indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, and join on the strength of our mutual history of nation building for peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I have no remarks myself this morning, other than Constable Carl Mayer is not able to be here today, so we'll welcome him at a future meeting. And as we customarily do, the first meeting of each calendar year, we hold board elections. So at this moment, I'll turn the chair over to the chief to hold board elections.
Okay, so we're going to do a call for nominations for board chair.
I nominate Mayor Panko for the board chair, please.
I'll nominate Rob Dobson for the board chair.
Chair Panko, do you accept your?
Sure.
Rob, do you
At
accept?
this point, I unfortunately can't.
Okay.
I just need a motion to close nominations for board chair. And so Sean is the board chair.
Okay.
Okay.
And what about the next election? Will that be the same day?
We'll call for nominations.
No, I meant.
We'll call for
For mayor.
nominations for board vice chair. Rob, do you want to nominate for board vice chair? We're just calling for nominations.
Do you want to stay in, Robert?
I would stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll nominate Rob Dobson. Sorry, I should have did it properly.
I'll second that nomination.
Motion to close nominations for board chair. Chris?
I have a
Sean?
split personality. I'll put up both hands.
Well, congratulations, Rob. You were vice chair. Sean, you're chair.
I'm gonna have to move.
Okay.
All right.
Chief, any additions to the agenda?
The only addition I have is a letter from the association that they wanted read at our board meeting.
Okay.
Is it? I suppose it's appropriate. Is it?
Yes, it's
Okay.
appropriate. Yes.
Is it under,
Yes.
I guess, new business E?
Yes.
I suppose it doesn't matter if it wasn't on again.
Okay. Any declaration of interest? Seeing none. We have a couple of in-camera items to look after, so we'll ask for a motion to move in camera in a moment. The Smith Falls Police Service Board moving camera to discuss items pertaining to intimate, financial, or personal matters, or other matters may be disclosed of such a nature having regard to the circumstances that the desirability of avoiding their disclosure in the interest of any person affected public interest outweighs the desirability of adhering to the principle that proceedings be open to the public and according to Section 44 of the Community Safety and Policing Act. Motion moving camera moved by Rob, seconded by Chris. All in favor? So that's carried.
Okay.
Thought you'd be down south, pal.
Next a week
Just that
Friday.
we're gonna- No, it'll be out camera.
not in response to
I'd
any,
make sure that it,
any
Yeah,
inquiries either,
I
right?
don't know.
We're not being recorded now, or?
I just said we're good to go. Okay, we're back on.
Okay.
shut up.
Welcome back. We had 3 in-camera items to deal with, including HR staffing updates, operational structure, and approval of in-camera minutes. Moving forward with our budget, we have, our agenda, I mean, no correspondence, but we have minutes from our December 4th meeting. Need a motion for approval. Moved by Rob, second by Chris. All in favor? On to business arising from the previous meeting, our 2024 budget monitor, Chief.
Okay, I threw it up there on the screen.
Oh, I can see it on there, but I don't see
Our
it.
salary recovery, we have more going into salaries recovering from WSIB. We budget 150, we're at 194, which is a good thing. That goes back into the salaries. Part-time wages are up. And that also affects our overtime. As I had mentioned before, the overtime was high for staffing. Over the next 2024, we're 93,000 over budget on overtime. And that affects your shift premium, your stat time, your vacation time payouts, because officers weren't able to take the time off. Hopefully in 2025, we have a better picture of staffing and we're going in the right direction. Everything else was fine. Complex maintenance, we're higher because of issues that we had with our generator. It was quite an expense to get the generator. It failed on us and we had a power failure months ago. So I got on that, had the generator fixed. So that put a big dent in our complex maintenance. I tried to get that recovered through the NG 911 grant. They didn't approve the generator, which I was surprised because it is part of your power upgrade. So that had to come out of our complex maintenance over budget expense, as well as the new breathalyzer under equipment. We had to have the Intoxilyzer 9000 to get our officers training, as the Intoxilyzer 8000 has become obsolete for parks. And we want to ensure that we have the newest system so that our officers have already received training on the Intoxilyzer 9000. Some are there as we speak getting trained. And that's it for 2024. For the board's budget, honorarium was showing under budget. That's just because the two members, the mayor and council, they didn't put the honorarium into the budget, so that'll balance out. Membership fees went up for board members. We noticed for 2025, so I'm wondering if we should reallocate. So you budgeted at 35,000 in legal and consulting fees for 2025. You were over budget in 2024. That had to do with the chief's process for the consultant. However, for 2025, because of policies and procedures that you want for the board, we put some more money into that. If we should allocate $1,000 into your membership fees more, because it did go up to 3,000 for 2025, and just take that out of your consulting fees. Sure. So we're not adding anything to it. We're just going to move that. That was something that the board wouldn't have anticipated. And that's the 2024 monitor.
Questions or comments? Okay, moving on to 2025, Chief.
2025, we're still have presented it to council. We're going to talk again to council on January 27th. Today, I've got an overview on calls for service, but also on grants that I'll touch on later. So there has been nothing that have changed in our 2025 budget that we presented to council so far.
Okay. And cruiser tender update.
So after our last board meeting, we had, let me see here. What was the date of that stuff for the cruiser? November 20th at 1 o'clock. Chris Samir from the board helped us with the tenders, and we had 4 submissions. We opened up the tenders and we look at everything across the board. Reliability, we have to have the costs and as well the parts that we need for the cruisers. We also need to have to ensure that the cruisers are available to go in when needed, especially in urgent. The non-urgent oil changes, that kind of thing, that's something that we were okay to wait on and make appointments for. But if we do have a major breakdown on a cruiser, we need to get it in. Nissan has been our provider for the last couple of years, and they've been wonderful. This year we went with RCL. They're a small company on Lombard Street, and Chris and Lee Craig run the business. So we looked at pricing and overall comparators with the other tenders and felt that they were reasonable, and pricing was very good for parts and for maintenance. So we decided to go with them. So we've been starting with RCL for the next couple of years, starting January 2020.
Questions or comments? No? Okay. Moving into new business, the grant updates.
Okay, Steph, on the PowerPoint, it's showing annual stats report.
Under December reports.
Yep, December report.
Oh, that was just it,
SP.
stats comparison, or is that what you want?
Yeah, stats comparison, right there, yeah. I don't know who invented this, but doing this when you're presenting.
Might be good to monitor down closer, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
You guys might need bigger TVs on this side.
I'll go this
No,
way.
not great.
It's easier.
Especially if you have small print,
Do you
right?
have monitors that you?
Okay,
Or your
so
iPad.
just keep going.
Can you see
Steph.
that on the iPad? Well, that's really, yeah. That would be nice, actually. I have a hard time seeing which one.
Okay, stop.
I know, I'm right.
So I just wanted to show the board some comparators for smaller services statistically for municipal police services and our calls for service, and how kind of went with services similar to ours, although population are different. Brockville Police, their population has increased to 18,000. Their budget is over 10 million. Gananoque, there was a 7.5% increase. Hanover Police is 12% with 5,500 calls for service. Gananoque has less than 5,000 calls for service. And Port Hope, which I was surprised at, their latest annual report showed 5,851 calls for service with a population of almost 18,000 and a budget of over 7 million.
Port Hope not police both municipal and OPP?
Well, this is just the municipal portion.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just went with municipal. Okay, next slide. I was able to get some stats from the Municipal Bureau of the OPP. Population-wise, in Perth, their calls for service, if I take away, they do calls for service for them, stat-wise, they include all the criminal record checks. So I took away those because we do ours differently. We don't separate each criminal record check. We do our own stats, and the deputy is going to highlight those after. So I just went for frontline calls for service that we do. So Perth was 3,444, and this was as of December 14th. So I did our stats as of December 14th as well, just kind of give you an overview. Carlton Place has about 14,000 population, which I think they're going to be more, but their calls for service were 6,297, and ours were 7,923. Our domestics, as you see, we've got over 224, or we're at 224. I know we've increased for that. Carlton Place had 127 and Perth 77. So if you look at our higher rate of calls for service, the domestic calls, the most serious ones, we are higher. Assisting other services, which I wanted to highlight this as well, because sometimes I know it's talked about, OPP assisting municipal services such as Smith Falls. For Perth, they assisted 3 times to municipal services. Carlton Place was twice. Smith Falls, we are at 200. And I got the latest stats that the deputy's gonna highlight after, it's more than 200. So this includes OPP assist calls. This is as well as we have the municipal calls for service at other, for example, Ottawa, Gananoque, but this is anything from domestics assisting, traffic complaints that come in, kind of in underlying areas that they can't get a car there quick enough, or collisions, fatals, serious accidents. Okay, next slide.
Please call themselves. They can't call anybody anyway.
So this kind of gave you an overview as well. Monthly stats. We were at our front line, like I said before, 10 officers on the front line, 2 frontline sergeants, 2 in crime. But those 2 CIB officers were often pulled from CIB onto the road to answer calls for service. Like I said, we're going call to call to call. And this is why we had requested more officers to help us. And then total 17 officers available. With 7,954 calls for service, someone needs to answer that. Public safety is the most important thing for me. Officer safety, public safety. This is why we took the job that we did, because we value our community, we value our officers, and we need to do what we need to do to get our strength in numbers so that we can respond to the calls for service that we're seeing. PSB approval of hiring the 6 new officers have been such a relief to our officers. We've had meetings with our staff so far.
Actually, Jody, I don't get the mic. I don't know if you're sure if the mic is actually picking up your commentary here or
Oh,
not.
really?
Just wondering.
Okay,
I don't know if I can just be safe, I guess, be sure.
yeah, just hard to see.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I never even thought about the microphone.
We'll-
Other services across Ontario are using like a $30,000 signing bonus to retain and get officers, like more up in the northern municipal services. But this is what we're seeing. So we want to ensure that not only do we hire good officers, but we retain them for long term. That you see officers in your community that are invested in your community and stay in your community, so they get to know you. That is what I kind of grew up with within the service, and other officers as well. I think that's a really important piece of having for your police service. Okay, next slide. Grant expenditures that we're looking at in 2024, 2025. Might be easier for me just to look off the paper. NG 911, I got approval for $294,514. That's going into your 2025, 2024 budget though. So if you think about how grants work, it's April 2024, March 2025. So that money has to be spent by March 2025. Victim Services Grant, 200,000, what we've asked for, that's to be determined. Haven't heard back from the government on that. That's going to help our partners as well as provide grant funding for our officer training, which we budget for. So when we get training from these grants, it goes back into our training budget.
Excuse me.
The MCERT grant, year 1, 105,000 was approved. That's less than what I had asked for. And now they've put out year 2 and 3, which not sure why they didn't do the full 3-year this year, but this is where we're at. So we've applied for that year 2 and 3, again, the max, to work collaboratively with Lanark County OPP on sharing staffing resources. Our community safety and policing grant, that's completed in 2025 March. My understanding is we're anticipating another grant coming forward. That takes, there's 2 grants, a local one and a provincial one, and there's funding from both sides for for example, your community service officer. We were able to allocate $70,000 to his salary for this grant. Our proceeds of crime grant, that's for our partnerships only. So Big Brothers and RNG services are benefiting from this grant. They've been going into the schools on crime prevention for youth. RIDE grant, that just came out. but yet it goes back from April 2024 to March 2025. You've seen our officers out. We do the festive rides, but we also put rides into January, February, March as well. And then in 2025, we'll be putting some into the summer months. Court security grant, I haven't seen the application for that yet, but that grant pays for the special constable, all her salary, paid for her training, everything in 2024. And that's the grant update so far. That's it.
Comments or questions?
Substantial amount of money that's possibly coming back in. To
Yeah.
offset that.
And thanks for the insight into the calls for service.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for the insight into the calls for service and I guess direct correlation between calls for service and the number of personnel we need to support those calls for service. And just look at the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, our calls for service are about 155% of Perth and about 165% of Carleton Place on a per capita basis, right?
Yeah.
So it's helpful understanding.
And absolutely, and the deputy will highlight the operational report, maybe give some more backstory to it as well. A lot of our calls are 2 officer calls for service for officer safety. Domestics, there's 2 officers. Mental health calls are 2 officers. We have high-risk offenders, warrants, minimum 2 officer calls for service. So that just takes away 2 officers right then and there. So if you're having a deputy chief or if you have a staff sergeant that's trying to run the service, also backup officers on calls for service, it's not an effective use of what you have the deputy chief to do in charge of operation and ensuring that the whole service is run adequately and efficiently. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's we're heading in the right direction. And certainly we've had positive feedback. I know I have received positive feedback from members of the community, taxpayers, members of the community that do value having their local police service and what we do offer for that. And the fact that they could pick up the phone and call one of us and say, hey, we're seeing an increase in traffic in this area, or send an email that then gets sent to our frontline staff. It's hard to do that when you're in provincial services to be able to do that. So they do value at least that feedback that they're able to do and provide, and that quick response that we have to calls for service as well. We can, highlight the boy that just went in the ice. That was a primary call of an excellent execution of a rescue. Prior to fire department getting there, the officers were able to throw at least a rope out and, to have at least something to go out to the youth. But having that quick response by your emergency services when you need us is most important. I can think of umpteen times when people have run into our police station because we are open 24/7, fleeing from an abusive partner, or homeless and needing a place to stay, or suicidal and being in crisis and needing to come to a place. We're 24/7, and we have that availability to our community. And we have the frontline officers that can be at any call in any part of this town within 2 minutes if they need to be, and pull themselves away from the less urgent calls. So there is a lot of value, and I get there's a price on it, but to us, there's not a price on public safety and our community safety. So it's just something that we will always advocate for, and we thank the board for advocating with us for our community. So
Okay.
yeah.
If nothing further, move on. Rural Police and Fire Games.
Yeah, so usually that's something that the board has approved in the past. Every 2 years, the World Police Fire Games are done across the country and the world, and it is something that I've gotten myself into since 2011, but we also have 3 other members that are interested, Brent Pellet, Tyler Brett, and Corinne Gauthier as well. She is interested in the golf. And we just asked for board's permission to represent the service in a positive way and competing for the games this year. It's in Alabama in July. And we all train, of course, off duty on our own time. And the association, I believe, covers their expenses, but it's my own personal expense to go to these games. It's just we need permission to represent the police service.
There's no cost implications.
There's no cost implications.
I'm all for it, then, absolutely.
Okay. You're continuing to compete?
I am. Yes. Yeah, it's what keeps me healthy, going.
All right. You
Yeah.
guys
Will the
support?
deputy chief be competing too?
He could. He rocks it.
I think it'd be very good for him.
Listen, I'll have you know that both of us did the 2025 fitness pin. We try and do it every year. He would beat recruits in the running shuttle run. He was like on fire.
All right.
Yeah.
All
So
good.
health and fitness are actually really important to us, and we have been promoting that to our staff. It's something that we really value is your mental wellness and your physical wellness, especially on this job when you're wearing 20 plus pounds of equipment, you're in and out of a car, you're dealing with people that you sometimes have to defend yourself or go hands-on. And to me, if you don't keep yourself mentally and physically well, how are you going to protect the community and look after yourself? Because it is a demanding job. And so wellness and fitness is something that we promote and encourage. And thankfully, most of our staff are very active and work out on their own time. So, yeah.
Perhaps the board should be
Yeah.
involved in that.
Yeah, less chance of being off and getting hurt. And
I carry 20 pounds 24/7.
Okay, yeah. Well, great leadership by example.
yeah.
Okay. Taxi bylaw.
Do you want to just finish the fingerprint fees and then I can just roll right through the deputy report after? Is
Sure.
that easy?
Yeah. Can we go to? Do we have the fingerprint fees on the agenda?
Taxi bylaws.
Oh, the next one. Can we do that one?
Fingerprint
first?
fees, yeah.
Yeah. So we've done a tally across the province and given you a copy as well, comparators on costs. And we're asking the board if we could raise our fingerprinting fees. That will put more money into our budget line. It is a job that it pulls away from our staff, our officers, or our special constable to fingerprint people for criminal record checks for employment. And to even do these fingerprint checks, they do take time. And so we're looking at increasing our fees, not for volunteers. For all volunteers, we've had no fees for doing volunteer record checks. But our pricing is quite low in comparators to other services across the province. So we're just looking for direction from the board on increasing our costs.
Prepare the package. So we're at 30.
So we're at
Volunteer or
30,
free?
yeah, so
35.
we're at, work-related ones are $35 for fingerprinting. And we don't charge anything for volunteers, and as well as if they have to get fingerprinted, so say their name is similar to somebody that has a record, they do have to get fingerprinted to do as a comparator to just ensure that that's not the person that, and then $54 we do for pardon applications, which again are time consuming for our staff to do that. So we were looking for some more direction to perhaps, go in line similar to maybe Brockville. We don't know what Brockville charges for pardon applications, but Ottawa Police, for example, it's $71. So to increase it even, to 70 for pardons. We don't do a ton of pardons, but I just find our fees are a bit lower that we could increase our costs. We haven't increased these costs in years either.
When we look at the OPP is 41 for
Yeah.
non-volunteer, 71 if there's fingerprints involved, and Ottawa 71 for work purposes, 71 for pardon, I guess the same, 53 for additional icing for fingerprints. So I don't know. Thoughts? Should we go to? Should we go to 40 or 41 for fingerprints to make us consistent with OPP or Ottawa?
You could do those.
Volunteer remains 0, and for pardon applications, I suggest maybe 70. There's not a lot of those in a year, you said, right?
No, and I think that's fair. It does take a lot of a person's time to
Okay.
do the
should we go to-
applications. And
How about 40 and 70?
sure.
That makes sense to
Yeah.
the board?
Yep.
I'm going to go to Gananoque. Say just
They can't. Yeah.
they don't have a good business case there whatsoever.
Yeah.
So motion
I was
to
surprised it's quite low there.
motion support the change. Moved by Chris, second by Rob, all in favor? Okay. Some minor modifications to those costs.
Yeah, deputy.
Taxi bylaw, did we discuss it? Oh, the deputy looks after the taxis.
Taxi work.
That's,
I'll get right to it. It's going to be short. Morning. Thank you very much. Just to touch on the taxi bylaw issue, a recent situation that I've been tasked to deal with. I'm just going to talk high overview because it's very preliminary, but there was a situation brought forward about other taxi companies coming into Smith Falls and picking up fares and dropping fares off. As a result of me looking into that and a review of the current bylaw, it's become apparent that this might be an opportunity to maybe review and modernize our taxi bylaw as it currently stands. So I've been working with Kerry Costello, and there's more to come on that. But I just wanted to let you folks know that that's kind of in the works. It's just not that it's majorly antiquated, but I think there's some opportunity there where we can modernize it and do a little bit better in our taxi bylaw area. So more to come on that as we work through it. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions at all? Or?
Forward to that coming forward in a future meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very quick, we have 2 reports to do, obviously, because we didn't sit last month, so I have November.
Sorry, before that, we have,
Sorry.
we added item E, the letter from the association.
Oh, I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
it's right up there if you want to read it.
Yeah, either
Yeah.
I want to read the whole thing.
Sure.
This is the one.
Yep.
This is the letter sent from Brock Woodser, the new president of the Smith Falls Police Association. Support for Chief MP's 2025 budget proposal. Dear members of the Police Service Board, this letter is written in support of Chief MP's proposed budget increase for the Smith Falls Police Service in 2025. While the proposed increase may appear significant, it is crucial to acknowledge that the Smith Falls Police Service has consistently operated below budget in recent years. This has occurred despite a steady increase in call volume and a decline in available sworn officers due to factors such as short-term disability and workplace safety and insurance board claims. The recent board strategic plan for 2024 to 2026 revealed a critical concern among all members of the police service: inadequate staffing levels. This has resulted in frequent situations where officers are required to work with minimal staffing, often as low as 2 officers on duty. Furthermore, members are routinely called upon to work overtime on their rest days to compensate for these staffing shortages. This unsustainable situation has a significant impact on officer morale, well-being, and ultimately public safety. The Smith Falls Police Association believes that the proposed budget increase is necessary to address these critical issues. It will allow the service to: 1. Increase staffing levels. This will improve officer safety, reduce reliance on overtime, and enhance the service's ability to respond effectively to community needs. Invest in officer training and development. This will ensure that officers have the skills and knowledge necessary to effectively address modern policing challenges. Improve officer well-being. This will support initiatives aimed at reducing stress and burnout among officers. The Smith Falls Police Association is grateful for the efforts of Chief MP and Deputy Chief Kettle in advocating for this budget increase. We are confident that this investment will not only improve the operational effectiveness of the police service, but also enhance the safety and well-being of our officers and the community we serve. We urge the Town Council to give serious consideration to Chief MP's budget proposal. Signed, sincerely, Brock Woods, President, Smith Falls Police Association.
Any comments? Just looking for a motion that we receive that as information. Moved by Rob, second by Chris. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, on to our operational report.
Yeah, and as I stated earlier, we have a couple of months to get through because we didn't sit last month, so I'll try to be fairly brief. But there are some things I do want to highlight. So for November, 693 calls for service. Just kind of an overview of some of our noteworthy charges. I want to highlight overall there's 73 criminal charges, which is a significant amount of criminal charges. So there's lots of enforcement action being taken. I've moved to a new one there that we haven't really covered before with family disputes, because I've been noticing in my few months that I've been there that we tend to do a lot of, we talk about domestics IPV, but our family dispute numbers are fairly significant as well. And as you can see, just in November alone, there were 17 of those investigations. And then the other ones, IPV obviously, are, sadly, but correctly, always up in the double digits per month. And our assaults were at 12. Mental Health Act,
You can see here, we had 43 calls for service with a 19% apprehension rate and a 52-minute average wait time, with the highest being 3 hours and 16 minutes. November, obviously, you can see it showed an increase. It was up from 21, so that's very significant. We had obviously 21 November, and then or from the month previous, October. Apprehension rate up 5, and our longest wait time was up from 2 hours and 16 minutes. So we're still seeing those lengthy wait times that emerge that we're trying to navigate and figure out how to get around that, but just doesn't seem to be able to happen right now. Our collisions, just 20 that month, down from 27 the month previous. Our traffic complaints were at 30, and that's down from 50, so it's trending in the right direction. One thing I do want to highlight is our vehicle stops, and this, we talk about the investment in our personnel. You're going to notice a lot of our proactive stuff is starting to increase, and I fully anticipate that's going to carry into 2025 as we bring even more officers online. So when I look at vehicle stops performed, 129 up from 91 the month before, and that's just with the addition of a few more officers and people being able to take a breath and do some of that more critical proactive work. So I'm pretty happy to see those numbers trending in that direction. Our enforcement as well, probably due to the increase in vehicle stops, there was more enforcement charges laid, 67 up from 59 the month previous. And just the run-of-the-mill charges that we normally see with the speeding, careless driving, stop sign violations, things like that. Criminal charges that resulted from these traffic stops, again, with the increase in stops, we're seeing an increase in charges, which is the way it should be, and available enforcement action to us. So we were able to lay 13 criminal charges, which was up from 4, significant from the month before. Again, I attribute that to the increased personnel being able to actually affect those kind of proactive types of stops and deal with those situations appropriately, and having the time to do it. This is another one too, when we talk about proactive, I wanted to key on this one a little bit, is you'll see all of these numbers are up. Foot patrol hours are up, school visits are up, community service is up. Again, it may seem, I don't want to say it's insignificant because it's not, but as you look at the actual real numbers and the measurables, we have some more people in our platoon structure now. We're able to do those critical core things that we may not have been able to do maybe even 3 or 4 months ago. So I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing here for the month of November. Our step enforcement for November was intersection safety. So we had 14 charges during that initiative, which was up from the 7 that we laid during the seatbelt safety. We tried to key on targeted intersections that are maybe show more of our MVCs and traffic collisions. This is where we try to maybe focus our priority on. And as a result, you see we were able to have some success, I guess. We want to look at it in laying some additional charges, but hopefully we try to do a lot of education stops as well, and there were a number of warnings and stuff issued as well during that. That's okay, you don't have to go back, but the step priority for the December one, which I'll cover, was impaired driving. So Tyler Brett and our CIB branch, this is just some of the things that he's been involved in. Obviously, a large chunk of his time is assisting the OPP's criminal investigations branch with the missing persons investigations that are ongoing. Assisted Brockville Police Service with ongoing investigation they're working with in a surveillance support situation. Obviously, has to keep up with this training, and in addition to all this stuff, he's been very good to help us out with shift shortages and stuff as they came up and working with frontline patrols. Been very busy. Community service officer, as talked earlier, the school hours and school visits have gone up, and Constable Keoghan has been conducting a lot of these. He's been at some situation table meetings with a lot of our partners and stuff in the community, which are very helpful for us to be part of. Letters to Santa program with the mail strike probably took some more of his time than he'd like, because I think all those letters had to get hand delivered. But he was very effective in getting those started and out the door to those kids that participated. He's also very good in helping with training. We have special constable training that's ongoing, and even some of our new recruits that are just continuing training too, to get them up to where they need to be, and he's been helpful with that. So. And you can see there, he's also good to help. That month he put in 11 shifts for us on the front line to cover up shift shortages. These are the criminal record checks. I guess I think, obviously, this is just our numbers. We can look at the year-end one in December, which I have a file there, so we can kind of know that where we're at for numbers there total. Yep. No, I'm sorry. No, that's all right. All right, so for December, we did 562 calls. It was down a little bit. I did highlight in there that our total occurrences for 2024 at 8,211 was our final count for 2024, which seems to be remains in the 8,000 range and increasing from last year as well. So again, here for criminal charges, they're up again from last month, from 81 to 73. Total for the year, and I wanted to highlight this just because we kind of see the month by month or whatever, and we don't really understand, but there was 1,162 criminal charges laid by our service last year total, which is fairly significant for a small force. And not of those, additionally, 47 drug charges. So we split those up. So quite a bit of criminal work and criminal activity and criminal charges being laid by our members. So just to show you the impact of all those calls for service are resulting in criminal charges. IPV cases, again, they stayed relatively same as well. Same with assaults. Family disputes were down a little bit. And we seem to have some more mischief calls than we normally do in December. Mental health, they were down 12 calls for service, down from last month with an 8% apprehension rate. And again, we're into the close to the 2-hour mark for our highest wait time. Go to the next slide there, please. So these are our health IM quarterlies. And what I want to point out here is when we look at the call volume for the year, something I'm encouraged by is when we start our first 3 months, we had 113 calls for service for mental health calls. And when you look for the October to December, we're down to 76. And as you look progressively through the year, our call volume is decreasing now. Obviously we can't take credit for that, but what I am finding is that we are part of a bigger situation, like situation tables, Lanark County Mental Health, some of our other support networks. We have a lot more collaboration as of late, and I think this is helping in reduce our number of calls. We're still getting some, but I think some of our ones that I will say are repeat calls. Some of our support groups are getting much better at channeling those people to where they need to be to get them the supports and the helps they need. And that is actually dropping our call volume a bit. So we're not seeing as much repetition. We're still getting some, but I'm encouraged by what I see with these numbers. So.
Would a lot of those people not have a connection to support? Some repeat calls, but are a lot of people coming into the hospital or are calling 911 because they're in crisis and they have not maybe yet got support from Lanark County Mental Health or from a family doctor or another resource?
Some of them we're finding, I'll be honest, from my perspective, some we're seeing is just what I found when I started in September. We seem to have some people falling through the cracks of the system, if I could say, sadly. So we as a police service have kind of had some discussions with people like Open Doors, Lanark County Mental Health, some of these other support agencies to maybe encourage them to maybe take a more robust look at some of our really acute cases. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of those cases, I think they've stepped up and they've found better situations. So we weren't kind of going around and around in a cycle. And I think that has dropped our number of calls. I can think of one case in particular, obviously no names or whatever, but I think there was a month where we dealt with this person. I think it was 9 or 10 times, maybe more in a month. And I don't think we've had a situation with that person like in that way in the last 2-3 months.
Okay.
They're receiving the care they need through, the support of all our other agencies that are there and in place to deal with situations like that. So I'm hoping to see that these things keep trending down as we've got to get some more robust engagement from some of those other community partners. So,
thank you.
Traffic enforcement, collisions were down again, and I think that's maybe because we're doing some more vehicle stops, more educational pieces and stuff for people, and hopefully they're getting the message. The traffic complaints were up, but our vehicle stops were down a little bit, but that's also because during December, some of our officers, we try to get them their banked time away and get those used up by the end of the year. So that doesn't scare me that it looks like there's a significant drop. I think there's a reason there, and I expect in January that's going to pick up now. So, criminal charges, again, they're trending in the right direction for traffic-related criminal offenses. We're still seeing the drugs and the weapons, a lot of breaches of undertakings and recognizances and stuff. But again, through that proactive enforcement, we're finding those people and we're dealing with it with them effectively. So there's kind of a look at our proactive. Again, all those numbers seem to be trending in the right direction, which I'm pleased to see, and I'm pretty encouraged into 2025. It's going to keep moving in the same, not to sound like a broken record, but I feel like just with the influx of some new officers and stuff coming online, those numbers that are our core functions are going to be going in the right direction. The STEP initiative was impaired driving. Obviously, which is usually the case for December. We were able to run 4 ride programs with 875 drivers checked. There were 7 approved screening device demands made, and thankfully, no impaired drivers. I think that's part and parcel too to the media coverage of it too, and people know, and we've tried to obviously have a little bit more of a robust media release on Facebook and things like that, that we're out there, we're doing these rides, and hopefully people are listening, but certainly wasn't any lack of not checking people with 875 drivers. That's pretty good stat to not have any impaired, so encouraged by that. Again, this Tyler Brett and our CISO, still with those missing persons. And again, these are just some of the things that he helped with throughout the month. Again, covered frontline for us when we were a little bit short, and is still assisting other departments with some operations and stuff, and supporting our rope team to coordinate and apprehend some of the wanted individuals that are in our town. Community service, obviously, 160 Santa letters drafted and delivered by Constable Keoghan, which is this is a fairly significant number, but it's a fairly popular program, and I'm proud of him for the work that he does on it. He's really engaged with the schools now. He has a little bit more time to do that. He's not covering so much frontline. He still helps out here and there, but he has more time to dedicate to those kind of community service outreach things that are more than needed. And there you can see kind of an overview of our whole year. Our numbers are highlighted at the bottom for our last quarterly, and trending in the right direction. And our vehicle stops are significantly up in the last quarter from the first 3, which is encouraging. Foot patrols obviously are down a bit just given the weather and the time of year, but I assume they will go back up the summer hours, spring hours. Kind of with our bike patrol, we don't run bike patrol off season. So school hours have increased significantly, as well as our other community service hours. So things seem to be moving again in a direction that I'm pleased about. And there's your overview of the criminal records, just in light of the discussion we just had about raising the rates and stuff. You can see that we do a ton of criminal records checks through the year, and it is impactful for our staff and time and everything else. So I think the increase in those fees is well warranted for sure. And I think there's one more on that.
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, might have been might not have been saved on that one. Is the other one stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe on the very bottom.
Very.
There.
Yeah, this is just the one that Chief MP highlighted earlier, wanted me to add in, and just to kind of show it at a glance. We talk about assist calls from other agencies. You can see there's 42 calls, other municipalities to assist GAN, Brockville, Ottawa, CP Rail. And then the 263 calls that we have logged where we assisted the OPP, just outside of our town limits, or they're, to help them out with traffic complaints, domestic disputes, or traffic collisions, things of that nature. We just wanted to show you that at a quick glance, basically that, it's a significant amount of times we are assisting their agency as well. So,
Do we bill
Well-
back for that?
sorry?
Do we bill back for that?
No, just doing the math on that, a rough cost per call for service is, let's say, around $600 based on our budget and based on the number of calls. So you take that times the 263, it's about $160,000 of benefit that our municipal taxpayers are providing to our neighbors when we respond to calls.
Yeah.
And that's something that, especially when we look at the concern we expressed before Christmas, I guess, that the OPP police municipalities are getting support from the province to help mitigate some of the increase that they're all receiving, where we've heard nothing back from the Solicitor General regarding our concerns expressed that it should be totally across the province. At the same time, we're subsidizing the work of the OPP to $160,000 a year, roughly.
Right.
So there's more work to do here.
Absolutely.
How many times did they come in? That's the, I guess there's a, did the OPP come in to help us?
It was the number was there was very few.
Oh,
There was one
Yeah, remember
last
the
year
one?
with the guy over here.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was less than 5 or something.
Well, they come in, it's probably more than $600. So.
Yeah.
But
How many times would they come into town to help us?
Pardon me?
How many times would the OPP come into town to help us?
There was,
Once?
There was 3, the data from the Municipal Bureau for Carlton Place was 3 times that they assisted municipal and 2 times that Perth assisted municipal.
no, but OPP coming in to assist the Smith Falls Police Service.
That's the data.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
And
that they had.
but it would probably be more than $600 for the one call on whatever street that was, William or whatever that was.
I just remember when prior to Chief McGillivray leaving, he used to get information from the commissioner's office about how many, like a breakdown. So that's when, this was a couple of years ago, we decided to do the same, like to break down how many times our officers assist other police services and OPP as well. So this, we've been collecting data ever since to kind of give an idea. For example, just because of our fast response, and sometimes you'll have cars coming from Carlton Place to do a call in Montague. So they're leaving the town of Carlton Place to come do a call out in Montague area.
Is
We
that
have
because,
no officers in that area, so that's
because we have bodies available, police officers available?
I mean, we are going to assist, and obviously if there's a traffic complaint or if there's a domestic, of course, we're going to respond to help that person. And then we just hold the scene till OPP gets there. But sometimes they can be coming from Leeds, Brockville, out past Rita Lakes. Like I said, Carlton Place, I think they're coming out this way a lot to assist Montague Township. That's the data that we have been getting.
So most of those 264 would be, we are responding to, we're first on scene.
We're first on scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and traffic complaints, if they're not in the area and say the person's following someone in coming towards Smith Falls, they'll call that in to us. Domestics, MVC, there was a fatal that just happened out Jasper Way, just outside of Smith Falls.
Yeah.
And our officer was the first to arrive. He put out the fire with the fire extinguisher and assisted a bystander in getting the gentleman out. Unfortunately, the gentleman didn't survive, but that was a priority call, and obviously we're going and we're going to try and save a life. And Constable Hart was first on scene. Constable Simmons was there, and they tried to save this gentleman's life. Unfortunately, he passed away, but to have that first quick response, to put out a fire and try and get the gentleman out of the vehicle, that's sometimes things that aren't reported unless we highlight that to the board and the community. So
Like the board, we're very supportive of responding when the need is there, and especially when lives are at risk. But it's just that it does, if there's a higher concentration of service in those other communities, we wouldn't be called as often.
Well, I think the bulk of those calls come out of proximity because they know we're closer because the reality is they just aren't, you know, can you just go and hold that for us, or, you know, deal with it and mitigate it until we can get somebody there. So those seem to be a bunch of our calls.
Okay.
that we're noticing.
I'd also like to do a shout out for Constable Keoghan, helping out Santa Claus, addressing the letters and that. Originally, I thought that, do we really need to be doing that, until I learned that we are actually subsidized, over half of his annual salary is subsidized by the province. That really, now I go, okay, we've got to help Santa Claus out. No question about that. The community survey, I didn't know that. So
Yeah, I think in all due respect, too, we had an offer from a person who volunteered to assist us as an elf to help Santa out, which is, we probably will look into that next year. A lot of it, I think Constable Keoghan did on his own time. And our special constable, Ashley Ferrier, helped out a lot too, as being a helper in getting those letters, you know, to Santa and making sure Santa got the letters. So it is very popular. It's so cute to see. You know, Robbie Hall loves it. He wants to make sure Santa gets the letters, and we had anywhere from, you know, young little kids coming into the police station, and it's a positive thing for our officers. We have the Santa's mailbox there, and they put the letter in, and it's really, really cute to see what they write to Santa. So
as a taxpayer, I'm thinking, can we not find better resources? What we learned, it's provincially paid for. I'm all for it. Absolutely, 100%.
a lot of what he does is, to me, you know, I used to feel the same way. I used to think, why do we need a community service officer? Even though I was so involved in the community, but I did it as a front line. I'd go into the schools and stuff. And I always thought, why do we need an actual community service officer? But as we got busier, the benefit of having an officer that can have that connection to our partners in the situation table, and he, you know, knows everything about, like, if it, like the deputy's saying, if you're dealing with somebody 40 times in a month, then Sean's able to connect with situation table, with open doors. And if they need assistance, then deputy has been a great advocate on these services to say, hey, you know, you're available. We need the support for this youth. We need the support for this person, and kind of get that so that it's not cycle. We don't want to deal with the person 40 times. They don't want to deal with us 40 times. So they need help. How do we do that? And pushing that button. And so I have seen so much community support to have that face, that positive face, that, you know, if the other officers have to do enforcement or have to do the arrest, then at least you've got that face that is positive when they don't have time. And our frontline do go into the schools, of course. They do every shift as much as they can. But to have that frontline community face has been very valuable. Yeah.
If, that's it, I guess. Next meeting, February 12th. Okay, motion for adjournment by Rob, second by Chris. All in favor, thank you. We are adjourned. And now I can run the washroom.
Yeah, right.